Everybody, my name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. We talk all things talents in Connecticut. On tonight's show, this is the Defensive Player of the Week, a special I'll be doing every week where I do offense and defense. I had an Offensive Player of the Week, Kayvon Kennedy from Waterbury Career Academy. Now I have the Defensive Player of the Week, Zenon Kolcio from Haddam Killingworth, who coincidentally, I just had his head coach on last week leading up to this week in week one. So, well, who knows? You know, maybe he kind of told me about him before and then he showed up and did his thing. But Zenon, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And congratulations on being named the Defensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be on.
Obviously, what you did is the reason why you're here. But before we get into that, I kind of want to talk about the building up to that game against Old Saybrook. Haddam Killingworth, the amount of history, and I was telling Coach Wilcox this when I had him on, there's a lot of history with the program. There's a lot of talent as far as that comes through. I mean, the team is not far from what was, I think, a state championship game just a few years ago. What was it like as far as during the offseason and then OTAs and all that kind of building up for that first game?
I mean, it was kind of rough just because we lost a lot of our seniors on my sophomore year. And we started fresh with like a new line. I mean, basically like freshman, sophomore. I mean, all these guys were new. I mean, it was mostly their first year playing. So, I mean, for us, it was pretty tough building up the O line and everything. But it was really exciting to get in with 50 players this year. Surprising because last year, I know going into our first game versus OSW, we had 16 players. I mean, it's crazy. Half the team got contact traced, and we managed to pull it off, but it was tough. And this year, glad to go in with 50 players. I mean, it really gave us a good, gave us an upside, something to look up to.
Now, for you specifically, did you have a feeling that you were going to be? Now, did you start last year?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you kind of had an idea, like, okay, my spot, as long as I do my thing, is going to be good. But was there any? How do I put this? Was there any sort of goal set by the staff, like, Zenon, we're going to need you to do a little bit more. We need you to kind of maybe get home. We need you to bull rush a little bit more. Were there any sort of goals that the staff set for you for this season? I
mean, it was pretty tough just because for me, last year I was never D-end. It was kind of a new position for me. I kind of got put to the D-end position just because we had like a lack of defense alignment. It was really all skill position. So for me, it was kind of learning the position. I mean, it's completely different than a corner. So for me, it was kind of just getting used to containing, learning how to keep the quarterback from running around, containing the running back and everything. So, I mean, for me, the goals were just to like get used to the position, kind of figure it all out.
How tough was it for you in the beginning to go from, like you said, to go from corner to the line? I mean, I'm not being rude, but you're a little bit smaller than some of the big boys on the line. So you kind of have to be a little.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you kind of have to be happy with them and such. So, what kind of growth was that for you early on?
I mean, it was pretty crazy just because like coming into it, I was obviously a lot lighter than everyone, so I had to kind of use my athleticism to my advantage. So for me, figuring that out, like kind of like settling it down, kind of like slowing it down instead of just rushing to the backfield, that was the biggest part for me. Because like my instinct is like, oh, I see an open gap, I'm running there, right? Because I when I was younger, I actually played running back. So for me, mentally, I see an open gap, I run there. But DM position, you want to contain the outside instead of cutting it in. And mentally, I kept seeing the open gap. I was like running in, and then they bounced it out. And that was the biggest that was one of the toughest things that I had to like mentally figure out, just because I wasn't catching on. Because in the heat of the game, I feel like my instincts take over. I know the coaches are like, oh, stay outside. But mentally, I'm just like, oh, I see the gap, I see the ball, let me run. And it kind of just took over. So that's the hardest part.
It's like see ball, hit ball. I see ball, I'm going to after, right?
Yep, exactly.
Now, for you specifically, too, early on, and if it's the same thing now, that's fine. You can correct me.
Yeah.
You know, how difficult was it to not, because of your instincts, to not go as soon as the ball was hiked, to not try to go through the A gap, which is between the center and the guard?
Yep.
There are some holes in there, but a lot of times offensive linemen are tricky because they do that for a reason, so they can pancake you. So kind of how tough was that early on as well?
I mean, it was pretty tough just because like like I said, it was an instinct to go in. But what one of my coaches actually said is pay attention to detail. Little details like, oh, stay outside. Maybe it won't seem like anything's going on this play. But if I contain the outside, bounce it in, then a backer has the guy, right? And it's attention to the small details like that. And it's like, oh, exactly where I'm lined up. Like, I won't think about it. Like, if I'm lined up maybe just a little bit to the right, that has a bigger effect on the play than you really think, just because small details like that really have played a big role in the bigger picture.
Well, think about it as well. If the middle guys are able to do their thing, more often than not, they're going to kick out. They're going to bounce out, which basically they're coming right towards you. And you being a little bit more agile than some defense, because even though you don't have the size, you've got the speed and you've got the ability to kind of smooth your way and kind of get your way out of there. I almost feel like that kind of plays right into your hand.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Saturday, that actually helped me out perfectly because, like Coach Wilcox actually did a great job going through the plays. He really studied their film. He put a lot of work into it, so we really knew what we were expecting going into the game. But it was this little, I guess, screen to the running back that we went over a lot in practice. I kind of learned how to read it, and I knew when to jump. And he was like, well, you're going to use your athleticism, use it here. And it was basically this play where the quarterback rolled out, or he didn't really roll out to the right. I mean, he did the play before where I swatted it. Play after was the interception. But coach was like, hey, you could go for it here if you have the opportunity. I ran out and I swatted it, ended up getting the pick six. But, like, that's where the athleticism comes into play, because you just see the opportunity. And I was like, I'm a faster guy. I might as well take it.
Exactly. I mean, you had a pick six, you had tackle for a loss, you had a sack, you had a bunch of things. Yeah. Being here today. Another thing too that I'm just thinking about is that even though you don't have, again, to keep going back to the size, and I'm not trying to make fun of you or be rude, but even though you don't have that, you have something that a lot of DNs, because I'm going to be honest, I mean, thinking of the NFL games, which, mind you, I'd hate to be a kicker today because the kickers can't make anything. Although I've seen 2 field goals in this game for Dallas and Tampa, which is quite surprising. But that I digress. We're not going to talk about them. We're talking about you. Defensive ends, I don't know too many that can go back and cover. Typically, now every once in a while, I mean, if your name is 11 from heaven, Micah Parsons, you can go do that. But not a lot of DNs can do that. You have the ability, and I don't know if you've done it yet or if it's been talked about, but you have the ability to not only rush, you can also drop back in coverage, which then really kind of confuses teams now, because you guys could be showing a 3-4, for example, having the secondary, but then as soon as the ball is snapped, so pre-snap, post-snap, on that post-snap, you could be showing a 2-5. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it. And I mean, that's kind of what I like about the DN position. I'm not forced to, like, just contain just everything, but I have, like, those other opportunities just because of my size and everything.
That is, again, I'm not that smart when it comes to football, but I'm just thinking, like, wait, this kid can cover. If he can cover, I'm sure Coach Wilcox has already thought of that like 10 years ago. Yeah. Again, it's great to be able to have you on here. This is a lot of fun to being able to talk about this. Being able to talk about defense with you. Let's talk about the game itself, Old Saybrook. We kind of hinted to what you did during the game. What was the energy like that game for Adam Killingworth? Talk to me about that.
So we came in, obviously we had maybe double the amount of players as them. So we came in with that. We knew we had subs. So we kind of had a fresh set of legs. Anyone was tired, we kind of had subs to switch out with them. So that was a little upside. I mean, we also had, so basically we have the same line from last year. So we had 2 years of experience under the belt. So that was another upside, because last year the line really struggled. Like I said, it was their first year playing, but now that this line has like 2 years of experience. And that was another upside. The coaches really helped us stay in the game. I mean, from the sideline, every time I made a mistake, I looked over and I was like, yep. And then I didn't do it the next time. I mean, they were really helping us stay in the game.
Ham Killingworth, and I was telling Coach Wilcox this, that there's a very, there's a great opportunity when I consider teams that can pop, teams that could really kind of come out, the amount of players that are coming back, the amount of starters that in general were coming back on both offense and defense. Second year under a head coach. And even though you went from, I think it was a triple option to now the spread, there's a lot of things that can work with that. You have the weaponry to be able to do that. I feel like Adam Killingworth has an opportunity to really make some noise this season.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just because we are more like a skill position team, we don't have as many big bodies as most teams, as most teams in the Pequot. I mean, not to say that a lot of teams have a lot of big bodies. It's just that we have a lot less than most teams. So we really use our skill position to our advantage. Just like our receivers, we had a great passing, great passing game. I think our quarterback had around 200 passing yards, which is really nice in Pequot. He's doing pretty good this season. We had, I think, maybe two. I know I was around 100 yards, and Tate Callender, who's another receiver, he was around 100 yards too. I mean, it's great to use our skill position to our advantage.
Oh, 100%. I mean, to be able to have the ability to go to multiple guys, not have to rely on just one player, really kind of makes the defense have to think about who are we going to cover.
Yeah, I mean, we really switched around too. So with the wide receivers, we switch them around, confuse the defense. Really just opened us up to a lot of other opportunities, which is nice. Yeah.
Now, who do you have coming up the next couple games?
So we have Morgan next week, which is big game, rivalry game. Excited for that. Actually, I did a trip to Italy, and so my dad's going instead of me just so I can play for the game next week.
Wait, what happened?
So I was originally supposed to go to Italy. It wasn't really over the summer we planned the vacation, and it kind of came up before I noticed, and I was like, oh shoot, this is our rivalry game against Morgan. So I talked to my parents. I want to see what they would do. My dad said he'd take my spot, and I was like, well, that's great. I get to stay and play with the team. The coach was thrilled to hear that.
So do you have the whole house to yourself for the next week or two while they're gone?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, it's funny. Hey, you know what? There's not many football games you have, so if you have the opportunity to be able to go up against your rival, I mean, your dad's like, you know what? I'll take it. Go play.
Yeah, I know. It's really nice of him to do that.
And I think Morgan, too, they were coming off a pretty bad loss, weren't they?
Yeah, they had a tough game against Cromwell. I know some of my teammates went to go watch.
Because when I think of the Pequot, we just were talking about before, feel like it kind of gets a little bit disrespected for a variety of reasons. Obviously, to go to a game, it's not like we're in the NVL, because that's where I broadcast. I currently live in Town Plot and Waterbury, right? If I wanted to go to, I don't know, Holy Cross, I'm a hop, skip, and a jump away, right?
Yeah.
If I want to go watch Crosby, I'm about 10 minutes away. If I want the farthest team for me to go to would be probably Torrington. That's about 15, maybe 20 minutes, depending on the traffic. But I feel like for Pequot games, if you want to go see a team, you've got to do a bunch of stuff just to get there. I mean, it's a hike a little bit. So how difficult is it to really go watch teams? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the tough part. Just because, obviously the schools, we don't have that many players. I mean, it's tough. JV teams. I mean, they're having a struggle just finding other teams to play. So I mean, that's the biggest component. It's just you gotta get enough players just to play, and then obviously, like you were saying, it's pretty far. It's hard to get a crowd. I mean, it's pretty tough, and Pequot is overlooked. But I mean, we all try our best with what we have. We give it our all.
No, you do. And, the ability let's be honest. Last year you had Granby Canton in the playoffs. You had Rockville. We talked about Cromwell Portland. Stafford was able to, and I mentioned this during the broadcast that I had on Friday, Stafford gave Cromwell Portland a game for their lives. I mean, Cromwell Portland almost lost the game against Stafford, but coached by Coach Mazzone, and he's a very, very good coach. Stafford always plays well. The Pequot's got competitive teams, and I'm pretty sure the NVL actually got one of the Pequot teams, Gilbert Northwestern. So what is it about the Pequot that just makes you guys just different in a good way?
I mean, I really think it's just how it's the commitment all these kids put in, because obviously lack of players, you're going up and you only have 16 guys. It's really the commitment to say, oh, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to push through. I'm going to play this whole game. Like last year, first game. I mean, it was crazy. We were all cramping up by the end of the game. I mean, obviously only having 4 subs, it was crazy. And that's really what sets us apart. It's the commitment, just knowing that you're at a loss with the amount of players you have, and just facilities, everything. Just because people overlook these teams, and they're like, well, we don't care. I mean, that's the tough part.
You know what, though? I think you guys do so much to be able to produce on the field, but also just to work with any adversity. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? One day I feel like the Pequot will finally get the justice it does deserve, like the many other
Mm-hmm.
conferences do. But just
Mm-hmm.
keep doing what you're doing. And as far as the program and yourself is concerned, just keep producing, keep playing like you are, and you know what? Just prove it on the field. That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying.
Zenon, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Congratulations on being named the defensive player of the week, and best of luck the rest of the season, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Great talking to you.
No problem. That wrap things up in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Rest of these stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm Roger and find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.